Hi everybody, Cindy here with Pathways Homestead. Today I am making homemade egg noodles. And this is close to my grandmother's recipe. My granny, she made egg noodles, and my mama made egg noodles, and my grandmother made egg noodles. This recipe is close to my mother and granny's egg noodle recipe. And I've kind of adapted it and made it my own. So what you're going to need is you're going to need flour, you're going to need eggs, you're going to need salt and water. And then your utensils you're going to need a bowl. I have 2 bowls out here, but you don't necessarily need 2 bowls. You're going to need something to stir with, or your fingers. You're going to need a rolling pin, a rolling board, and I like to use a pizza cutter, but you can use a knife or a dough cutter. And we're going to get started. So I start out with, I'm making about a gallon. So for every quart of soup you have, if you're making chicken and noodles, for every quart of soup you have, you want 1 egg and 1 cup of flour to make your noodles, to go into like chicken noodles, or if you're making beef and noodles. These noodles are very versatile. You can even use them for spaghetti. I don't, but they're super, super good. I know people that like to cook them in water and put butter on them and just eat them that way. So we're going to get started. So I'm going to do 4 cups because I'm going to make about a gallon of soup tomorrow. And I'm going to put 4 cups of flour in my bowl. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now I'm going to put a pretty good pinch of salt in there, maybe 2. You can just, the salt is optional. You don't have to put salt in there, they'll be fine without it. Then I'm going to whisk my eggs. And I got them kind of roughly whisked, and I'm going to add half of my 1/4 cup of water. Because you may not need a full 1/4 cup of water. My mom uses half an eggshell for every egg she uses. Alright, now in the bowl, you're going to make a well in the bowl. So just make a hole in the flour and pour your eggs in. Okay, so now you can stir this up either with your rubber scraper or with your hands, and you're just going to stir that together. And you're wanting a wet dough. You can use your KitchenAid mixer and your dough hook and mix it together. I just don't want to make it. I just didn't want to use it today. It's difficult to film in that corner. Okay. I'm going to need the rest of my water. And I think I'm going to give up on this rubber scraper and go to using my fingers like I normally do. And I just knead it together like I'm kneading bread. It also gives you a good feel when you make breads and doughs. You learn what things feel like and how they're supposed to feel. And that is going to need quite a bit more water. That's feeling better. Because you want a real wet, sticky dough. My flour was pretty compact. I didn't stir it before I measured it out, and so it was probably too compact. Okay, so see how sticky this dough is? It's pretty sticky. That's what I'm wanting. Now I'm going to put some flour out on my board. I'm going to turn my dough out. I'm going to dust that ball real good. Maybe kind of knead it just a couple times, not much. Then I'm just going to roll them out. I'm going to roll them out pretty thin. If it starts to stick, put some more flour down. All right, there they are rolled out. The noodles rolled out. And as you can see, this is not perfect. They're you know, it's not uniform or anything like that, and that's all right. So now I'm going to use my cutter, and I'm just going to cut them in whatever strips I want, remembering that they're going to swell. And they don't have to be consistent and perfect. Some can be fat and some can be skinny. I usually kind of make a grid, and if I get one that looks like it's going to be too wide, I go back and cut it. My mom always rolled them up into a log and cut them with a knife. But I like this method. Okay, now I'm going to go across, well, that one's a little fat. Let's make him a little thinner. Okay, now I'm going to go this route. Okay, then I'm going to take some of my extra flour, and I'm going to sprinkle it on them. And I'm going to let them sit here and dry for a while. So, the noodles have dried overnight. You don't have to dry them overnight. You can use them immediately, or you can put them in the freezer. And I do that by placing a big cookie sheet underneath them, flash freezing them for an hour or two, and then dumping them into a bag. And those are some of the options. So you can see they're still gummy on the bottom. And that's okay. I've got my water boiling, or my soup boiling. I'm making chicken noodle soup, so I've cooked my chicken. I got my carcass over there waiting for me to make some bone broth with. And in this soup, I have an onion, 2 stalks of celery, a jar of our a pint jar of our canned carrots, and I have 2 bay leaves, and I've put in rosemary and thyme that we grew here on the homestead. I have put in a little bit of chicken bouillon, and I have the broth from the chicken that we cooked, and the chicken in here. So, I'm pretty excited. So some of the spices and the onion and celery didn't come from the homestead. But the chicken is ours, the carrots are ours, some of the spices are ours, the eggs are ours. So this is pretty cool. I get nerdy about that. I try to produce as much as I can. So anyway, this is boiling. I got sidetracked. This is boiling. I'm going to start dropping my noodles in. And I forgot to get something to stir with. Oh, no, I didn't. Here it is. Okay. And these noodles are a little long, so I'm just going to break them in half. And I could still run my roller over them, and they would be fine. But I'm just going to drop them in here. You just drop them into your boiling liquid, whether it's a soup, whether it's water. These are still tacky on the bottom, so if you were drying them, you would need to turn them over and dry one probably another day. And that probably wasn't a good idea to roll them up together like that. I'll forget, but you gotta stir them every now and then just to kind of get them all wet and down in the soup. You can also rub the noodles, the part that's tacky, in the flour that's left on your board, because that'll do 2 things. It'll make it less tacky, and it will add more flour to your broth to help thicken your soup. I probably should have done a little more of that, but it'll be all right. Okay, that's all our noodles in. I don't know if you can see it. It's looking pretty good. You can see the big pieces of rosemary in there, bay leaves. I put salt and pepper in there, and thyme, a little bit of sage. And so the rosemary, thyme, and sage came from my flower, from my herb garden. Look at that. Isn't that a beautiful chicken noodle soup? And here in So I'm just going to leave that and let it go and start cleaning up. But I have my camera in the sink because that was the best place to get this angle that I wanted. So I'm going to have to turn it off. But here we go, guys. Chicken and noodles, homemade. You guys, thanks for coming along and watching me make chicken and noodles. And I pray you have a blessed day.